All right, so we're going page 103 to 120 today. So where we left off last time is we were just talking about how different people were reacting to the death and how they were trying to validate their experiences there. So we have this Celeste Dangon. He was in his pajamas by the front door, and he invites Santiago to come in to sit down, have a drink. This way he could have time to think about what he was going to do. But Santiago was so positive that he was getting ready to go to Margot's house and have breakfast. He thought, well, he must be okay. I mean, if he knows where he's going. So he kind of lets that go. Then we have Yamil Shaman, and he is another Arab who was really good friends with Santiago's family. And if anybody has authority over Santiago, it's this guy. So he is going to go and try and stop this. But he starts to think to himself, he's like, you know what? If it's a rumor and there's no truth to it, then it'll really just upset Santiago. So let me check with Cristo first. So here's where everything goes wrong. He sees Cristo and Santiago walking together, and he grabs Cristo and pulls him aside, and Santiago keeps on going. As soon as Cristo catches wind of what's happening, he goes running after Santiago. But he can't find him. He just turns the corner and he's gone. He's trying to find him. Fate, guys, has made him invisible. No one can find him. Nobody knows where he is. So Cristo was like, all right, where could he have gone? Well, maybe he went to his house first. So he runs to Santiago's house. He goes inside. He doesn't see that paper on the floor. Remember the paper that nobody has seen that says what's going on? He doesn't see that. He goes into Santiago's. Santiago is not there. Victoria pretends like she doesn't know what's happening. She feigns her innocence. But she does know what's going on. And he says, listen, they're going to kill him. They're going to kill him. She's like, there is no drunk in the world that would do this, right? So absolutely not. She's like, just trying to say, is it going to happen? Cristo goes upstairs. He's going to go check Santiago's room just to make sure he's not there. When he gets upstairs, Santiago's door is locked, so he has to go in through the mother's room. So he passes mom, who's still laying in bed, and walks into the room. And he decides that he's like, oh, maybe Santiago came and got his gun. So he goes to look. Well, Santiago's gun is there. So he takes the gun. He puts it in his pocket. He's going to take it with him. Mom walks in the room, and at first she thinks like they're being robbed. She can't quite figure out what's going on because imagine she did just wake up, and so here's this guy in the house. She does know him, but she said he seemed so confused that it suddenly occurred to me that he had come to rob us. So have a little conversation. He leaves. That's the end. He's still looking for Santiago. He's running all over looking for Santiago. And when he gets outside, he comes across the Vicario brothers. The Vicario brothers are yelling at him, tell Santiago we're waiting here to kill him. We're waiting right here. We're going to kill him. He's like, if I knew how to shoot that revolver, I would have ended everything right then. So instead of shooting him, which he has the gun now, right? Instead of shooting the brothers, he says, oh, yeah, well, Santiago's got a gun. And they're like, right, we know that he doesn't have a gun. He doesn't carry a gun on today because they know each other so well. And he's like, dead men can't shoot because they're so set on what they're going to do. Matilde, she is just yelling and screaming. You know, she's like, hurry up, Cristo, go tell him. You're the only person that can stop this madness. And he's still trying to find his friend. He's still running around. He's looking for Santiago. People start to hear this noise coming from a distance. It says people who were coming back from the docks, remember the bishop just left, began to take up positions around the square to witness the crime. My goodness. So just like, you know, people will gather around a fight. Well, they're all gathering around to watch this murder that they've all known about, which is insane. As Cristo is frantically running, trying to find Santiago, he does run into the mayor, and he's like, oh my gosh, you have to help, they're going to kill him. And he's like, no, I took their knives away a long time ago. He's like, no, I just saw them with knives. So the mayor finally realizes his mistake, and that he didn't actually stop this murder. Cristo says here, Cristo Beota then made his only mortal mistake. He thought Santiago Nassar had decided at the last moment to have breakfast at our house before changing his clothes, and he went to look for him there. So remember, Santiago has plans to go eat breakfast at the narrator's house with Margot. So Cristo goes there instead of home, or instead of anywhere else. And that's the mistake because that's not where he is. Instead, well, on his way there, he is delayed 4 minutes. So even if he was going to be on time, he gets delayed because he's trying to helping people. Some man looked like he was going to die on the side of the street, and they're trying to help him. And as he turns the corner, he sees Luisa Santiago. Remember, she's Santiago's godmother. And he's like, Luisa, where is your godson? Your godson? And she's like, oh my gosh, they already killed him. So it's already been done. So where was Santiago? How did he just disappear when he went around that corner? What happened? Well, he stopped at his fiance's house. Now, his fiance's house is an interesting place because nobody ever goes into this house before noon because they all sleep so late. And but when he does pass the house, he runs his keys across the screen. So he does that on this day. His fiancee, Flora Miguel, she already heard the news. She knew what was going on, and so she has picked up all of the letters that he ever wrote, and she's like, come in here. She's going to shove these letters at him, and she is mad because she thinks he slept with her. So if he slept with her, that means she's not going to get to marry him because she's thinking in her mind, well, if they don't kill him, they're going to make him marry her in order to get her honor back, right? So these are the two options, and to her, neither one sounds good because she's supposed to marry Santiago at Christmas time. So she is angry. She throws the letters at him. He has no clue what's going on at all. And then it kind of gives us a little flash over real quick to the magistrate who's doing this investigation one more time. And just giving us a little piece here on page 113, if you look at this, says the investigating magistrate looked for a single person who'd seen him. And he did so with as much persistence as I, but it was impossible to find one. In folio 382 of the brief, he wrote another marginal pronouncement in red ink. Fatality makes us invisible. Santiago Nassar had gone in through the main door in quite the view of every single person in town. He wasn't trying to hide, yet nobody saw him. Fate has made him invisible. Fate has taken over this town and made it so that this death is extremely foretold, that this death is going to happen. So flashback, Santiago, he's in the house of his fiancée, and she's mad, and she's yelling, I hope they do kill you, and he has no clue what's going on. The father finally comes out and is trying to talk to him, and he even says, like, he turned pale, lost control in such a way it was impossible to think that he was pretending. Santiago reacts to this news with bewilderment, confusion. He has no clue what they're talking about. He's like, why would they want to kill me? He's so confused that he's just standing there with these letters. The dad has to take the letters away. He's like, listen, you can hide here with us. You can take my rifle and go out there, but it is 2 against 1. This is not fair. And it says he looks like a little wet bird. Well, wet birds can't fly, can they? So if he's a little wet bird, he's going to go out there, probably going to die, which is exactly what happens. He's bewildered. He has no clue what to do. He's kind of in this trance or in shock, let's say. And he just wanders outside. He just goes outside because he's in shock. He does not know what to do next. So he walks out of the house, he's in the town, and everybody is yelling and screaming. Remember, everybody is gathered now in the square, and Clotilde's going, run, they're going to kill you. And she's trying to hold the brothers back, and he just kind of starts running. He has no clue where the sound is coming from. Just 5 minutes before that, Victoria finally broke the news to the mother. The mother is, of course, extremely concerned. Davina then tells the mom, no, he just came in. She had this clear vision of him coming in, dressed in white, carrying a bouquet of roses. Well, that could be symbolic, couldn't it? So wait till we hear what happens to him. So she believes that she has just seen him come in with this bouquet of roses. This paper on the floor shows up again. Placidia steps over it, but it doesn't really matter at this time. She hears all the yelling and screaming from outside. She thought that the boys were running and they wanted to get in to kill him inside their house. So she runs to the door and locks it. She's locking the door. She hears her son screaming and shouting. She thinks he's screaming from upstairs. She goes upstairs to help him. Turns out that he just needed the few seconds to get in when the door closed. He's pounding with his fists on the door. Mom doesn't know he's outside. She thinks he's upstairs. And they just start stabbing him. The knife went through the palm of his right hand and sank into his side up to the hilt. Everybody heard him. Pedro pulled the knife out with his slaughterer's iron wrist and dealt him a second thrust among the same place. And they said the strange thing is that it kept coming out clean. They keep stabbing him, but the knife keeps coming out clean. It said I'd given him at least 3 times, and there wasn't a drop of blood. Santiago Nassar twists after the third stab. His arms cross over his stomach. He's moaning. There's blood spurting out everywhere. It smelled like him, is what people said. At this time, that smell starts to happen, right? This idea of their guilt, and they smell him. Not to mention that they are stabbing him in the gut, so it's probably a pretty disgusting smell happening. But they just keep on pummeling him. They've mortally wounded him 3 times. He turns frontward again, leans his back against the mother's door, and he just stands there while they finish killing him by his own contribution, meaning he doesn't cry out again. He's just sitting there, leaning against the door, and they keep on knifing him against the door, alternately stabbing him. And it says they didn't hear the shouts of the whole town, frightened by its own crime. So all the people are screaming and yelling in the background. Everybody's a little bit scared. This is pretty horrific, right? Pablo is yelling, I can't imagine how hard it is to kill this guy. They're trying once and for all to kill him. They're getting him like in the armpit where the pigs have a heart in their armpit, so they're trying to do that. Santiago Nassar isn't falling to the ground because every time they stab him, they're pinning him up, sort of like that dart with the butterfly, right? Remember that from before? So they're actually holding him up with all the stabs. Desperate, Pablo gives him a horizontal slash on the stomach, and all of his intestines explode out. Pedro is about to do the same, but his wrist twisted with horror, and he gave him a wild cut on the thigh. Santiago's really still for a second. All of his insides are outside now, and there's all sorts of shouting going on. It's very, very chaotic and crazy here. In all this chaos, people are running towards the house. Mom, she goes up on the balcony to look outside, and she sees her son slumped against the door. Well, it was at this time that he gathers up his guts, and he walks more than 100 yards completely around the house, and he went in through the kitchen door. He still had enough lucidity not to go along the street. It was the longest way, but by the house next door. The people next door and their 5 children didn't know what was happening. They heard all the shouting, but they thought maybe it was still because of the bishop. They didn't know what was going on. Then they see Santiago sort of enter their house to walk around. He's soaked in blood. He's carrying his own intestines and inside. The father tells us there was an extreme smell of poop, right? Because his insides are full of that. And it's just disgusting, and he just keeps on walking. He passes right by. He says, Santiago, my son, what has happened to you? And Santiago looks at him and says, they've killed me. They killed me. He stumbles. He brushes the dirt off. He gets into his house. It's been open, and he falls on his face in the kitchen. The end.